The sports betting podcast from OffshoreInsiders.com. We're going to take a look at the Sunbelt Preview for college football, purely from a betting standpoint. I'm Joe Duffy, Grandmaster Handicapper and CEO of OffshoreInsiders.com. Now, first, let's look at the odds, and we will tell you it lines up almost perfectly with Stassen.com. Stassen, what they do is they take the preseason publications and come up with the consensus preview and they picks to win the conference. Appalachian State is the favorite by both at plus 150. Georgia Southern is plus 350. Now, I will say from the standpoint of the preseason consensus, Georgia Southern just one cumulative point behind Appalachian State. So I guess the preseason publications think it's going to be a slightly tighter race than the odds makers. Arkansas State at plus 450. Louisiana Lafayette at plus 650. Texas State at plus 1,200. Now here's where there's a mild deviation. Although the consensus has South Alabama as the number 6 favorite at plus 1,800. Louisiana Monroe, according to the odds makers, is plus 1,400. Then the rest line up. The big long shots: Troy 3,800, New Mexico State 4,000, Idaho State plus 5,000, and Georgia State plus 6,000. Taking a look at what we will be keeping an eye out for each individual team. Arkansas State, they do have senior quarterback Freddie Knighton and 8 starters returning after setting records for points in total offense in their first season in Blake Anderson's fast-paced offense. Their top 6 wide receivers are back. However, on the weakness, opponents were able to score 28 rushing touchdowns over the final 7 games, and that's what happens. We're going to be keeping an eye open for that again. Why? Because when you play those up-tempo offenses, the defense is going to wear down, and the general rule of thumb is that, the up-tempo wears down the defenses more so because on offenses, you're controlling what you're doing, you know where you're going, and more importantly, once the ball's past the line of scrimmage, for the most part, an offensive player's his job is done, but the offensive lineman, that is. But on defense, you got all 11 players pursuing, and Arkansas State was the poster child of that. So if they continue to play that up-tempo offense, look for their defense to really wear down as the season goes on. All Sunbelt linebacker Quishan Lee is also gone, so that a tough loss. Georgia Southern, they're expected to throw the ball more this year. They've got the second year in Fritz's system. Their coach, they should benefit from junior quarterbacks Kevin Ellison, and who ran for 1,096 yards, and Fabian Upshaw, who played well when Ellison was sidelined. Now they have junior running backs Mac Brieda, also returns after averaging 8.7 yards per carry. So this team is loaded on offense and probably will open it up a little bit more. They have 16 contributors returning from last season on the defensive side of the ball, so they've got enough depth to really take it to the next level defensively. Georgia Southern led the Sun Belt in scoring defense and was 3rd in total defense as far as yards per game. Louisiana Lafayette, they got the departures of Terrence Broadway, who is their quarterback, their leading receiver James Butler, and of course their bruising running back Alonzo Harris. More on the shoulders of running back Elijah McGuire, who was the Sun Belt Player of the Year and the Offensive Player of the Year. They won't necessarily have the depth they had last year. Linebacking is strong, but the rest of the defense has a lot of question marks. Remember, you want to visit OffshoreInsiders.com every single day you place a bet. That's no exaggeration. Literally, when you place a bet without visiting OffshoreInsiders.com, you are just subsidizing the bookmakers. www.offshoreinsiders.com. Appalachian State, the Mountaineers were first in their season at FBS level last year. They had freshmen and sophomores filling in 14 of the 22 spots in the starting lineup, so there was youth everywhere. They closed out the year winning 6 straight, and that's what you want a young team to do, to improve, and they did exactly that. 4 offensive linemen are back. You know that term we like to use, baptism by fire? That is what App State got last year. After rushing for 1,415 yards and earning a spot on the All-Sun Belt, second-team running back Marcus Cox is back. Quarterback and top 4 receivers return. 10 starters back on defense, led by NFL prospect defensive end Ronald Blair. So make no mistake about it, App State, if you're looking to maybe bet a somewhat of a long shot to win the conference, They are very tempting. Now, remember what I always tell you, Joe Duffy's picks at offshoreinsiders.com. I don't like making those futures bets because nothing is more important than handicapping. As important it is to do the research in the preseason, and nobody's doing more than we are. Even more important, though, is making those week-to-week adjustments. That's why I don't like making those long-term bets, the futures bets. I don't want it to even subconsciously bias me and my ability to make those mid-season adjustments, game by game with injuries, etc. Texas State, now despite picking up 7 wins, Texas State did not receive a bowl invite last year. Most wins to miss a bowl game. A lot of people think that's going to be extra motivation, even some people looking way ahead. I do know of a journeyman, a decent handicapper who loves stuff like that. I can assure you if Texas State makes a bowl game, he's going to have them as his bowl game of the year. And, a lot of people, though, do believe when whatever teams are truly dissed by the bowls are the ones that will come out with a chip on their shoulder the following year. Junior quarterback Tyler Jones and senior tailback Robert Lowe is back. Wide receivers are okay at best. Lost 4 defenders, including linebacker David Mayo, who was named the Sunbelt's Defensive Player of the Year. South Alabama, offshoreinsiders.com, tells us quarterback Cody Clemens, slot receiver DJ Vincent, and guard Cameron Blankenship. All UAB transfers should start immediately, and they have really benefited from UAB. Remember, UAB dropped their football program, although now they decided they'll eventually bring it back. But they can transfer right away when a school does abandon their football program, and big benefit, not surprisingly, at South Alabama. They're deep at running back, though they really don't have a cowbell running back. Only 2 starters, though, back on defense. Non-conference slate of Nebraska, San Diego State, and NC State. Now, between the baptism by fire, where they play some tough games early, and a lot of new talent, but experienced guys, especially from UAB, we believe they will definitely be a team that will get better as the season goes on. Louisiana Monroe, mediocre quarterback, but 2 strong wide receivers with Caesar and Holly. They must be more balanced, though, with a running game. We expect them to try to run the ball a little bit more this year, more of an under team. 6 of ULM's top 7 tacklers from last season are back. The final 5 losses were each by 7 points or fewer. The same slim margin should be there again. We have said time and time again that usually there's nothing more overrated than a straight-up record. And when it comes to handicapping, so we definitely do look for them to be a very good team spread-wise. For Troy on the Sports Betting Podcast, brought to you by offshoreinsiders.com, first-year coach Neil Brown will be very up-tempo. Could be an early over team. Quarterback Brandon Silvers completed a freshman record 70.5% of his passes last year. Don't look for him to have such precision in a much more up-tempo offense, and that's a pretty high bar to set anyway. Defense is rebuilt. They have a tough schedule. Another rebuilt baptism by fire. Good late-season bet. Should be vulnerable early, but Troy, if they get off to a very rough start, look for them to be undervalued midway through the year. New Mexico State, 10 starters on defense back. Offensive coordinator Greg Brandon took a small college job. They ran an up-tempo offense. I think they're definitely going to be an under team indeed, much more run-oriented. The running back Larry Rose III rushed for 1,102 yards as a sophomore, with Brandon now at a smaller college as a head coach. New Mexico State should slow down the pace just a little bit. And their defense, as I said, going to be pretty good. Idaho gotten less worse each year. Yeah, that's more accurate than saying they've gotten better. NCAA lifted sanctions against them, and they can practice fully, and that is so important. You know, when teams make bowls and they make the minor bowls, the coaches will tell you the biggest benefit is they get some extra practice time for guys who are coming back the next year. So practice time is of enormous importance. Idaho, no longer on probation. That extra practice time is going to make them a much better team. Georgia State, running back Kyler Neal, 5.2 yards per carry in 4 games before an injury. So if he can stay healthy, that is very key. Also, their best secondary thanks to some transfers. So Georgia State, very possibly will be an under team. That's the check mark we got next to them right now. Again, Joe Duffy's Picks is the anchor of OffshoreInsiders.com, the top sports service of all time. Joe Duffy's Picks, www.offshoreinsiders.com.